Welcome to Algebra 2B. We're here working on the guided notes from Monday, April 15th, section 8.6. Remember, we do have a quiz on Wednesday for sections 8.4 to 8.6, which includes the operations on rational expressions, and today's lesson, rational equations. That means tomorrow in class we will be reviewing. Okay, you have guided notes in front of you, and I'm only going to do a few types of problems, or a few different problems, because there's actually only two types of problems in this lesson. Okay, the first one, which has a rational expression on both sides. And you'll see a different type in a second. So notice how we just have one fraction on the left side, one fraction on the right side. And the easiest way to do this is just cross multiply. So if I cross multiply, I have 3 times 4x plus 5 equals 9 times x plus 1. The key here is you must distribute that number. So please don't try to do the quick calculation in your head and forget something. Let's write this step out. Okay, so if I distribute, I get 12x plus 15 equals 9x plus 9. And now I'm just going to solve for x. Subtract 9 over here, so I get 6. I'm going to subtract 12 right there, so I get negative 3. Divided by negative 3, x equals negative 2. Okay, so that's number 1. I'm going to do let's skip down to number 3 and 4. So number 2 you'll have to do on your own in a second. Okay, so if we're looking at number 3, same idea. There's only one fraction on the left, one fraction on the right, so we can just cross multiply. I'm going to write the step out because I really want to make sure you distribute. I distribute the numbers right here. Negative 4x plus 12. Don't forget to distribute the negative sign. Distribute the 5. I get 5x plus 15. Subtract 12, I get 3 on the right side. Subtract 5, I get negative 9 on the left side. Divide by negative 9, I get negative 1/3. Okay, let's look at number 4. Same idea, but now we don't just have a coefficient in the numerators, we actually have a variable here. So I'm still going to cross multiply, but now I need to distribute this x. Okay, I distribute, 11x plus 8 on the left. Distribute, I get 2x squared plus 5x. Okay, now I'm going to bring everything to the same side, and you'll see why. Notice that a quadratic is forming since we have an x squared over here. So I'm going to subtract 11x, subtract 8, so I have 0 equals 2x squared minus 6x minus 8. Okay, now what we need to do is we still need to solve for x. Okay, so I start looking by factoring. First thing I'm going to do, multiply a times c. So if you do that, you get negative 16, and my b is negative 6. So what multiplies to negative 16 and adds to negative 6? Okay, take a second and look at that. I'd go with negative 8 and positive 2. So I'm going to split that middle term, bring down the first term. So I have 2x squared minus 8x plus 2x minus 8. And now I'm just going to group. Take out my GCF here, which is 2x. I'm left with x minus 4. Take out my GCF here, which is 2. Left with x minus 4. And now we get 0 equals 2x plus 2 times x minus 4. Solve for your variables there. We get x equals 4. And x equals negative 1. Okay, so we're moving down the ladder here to the second type of problem. Now notice how 5, 6, and 7 are a little different from 1 through 4 because there's not only one rational expression on each side, but notice how there's 2 on the left side. So what we need to do here is we need to find the least common multiple of the denominators, or we call it the least common denominator. So notice how we have an x and a 4. So you don't have to do this on your paper, but what I suggest you do is write the least common multiple out first. It's called 4x, right? That's the least common denominator there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 4x. Okay? Now this is a key step here, because you don't want to forget that we need to distribute that least common multiple. Okay, not just to one rational expression on the left side, but to both. Okay, 5 over x times 4x. Notice how the x is reduced just to 1, and you're left with 20. 7 over 4 times 4x, the 4's reduced, so you just have 7x. And negative 9 over x times 4x, the x is reduced, so you're left with negative 36. So notice how by multiplying by the least common multiple, we've actually simplified the equation much more. And now we can just solve this linear equation. Subtract 20, we get negative 56. Divide by 7, x equals negative 8. Okay, so notice how by multiplying by the least common multiple, it's making the equation a lot easier. I'm going to leave 6 for you guys. Let's move on. Looking on the back side of the sheet, we'll do 2 of these. Look at number 7 and number 9. Okay. Actually, let's go 7 and 11. So if I'm doing number 7, still looking for the least common multiple. Remember that 7 has a denominator of 1. So the least common multiple here is x minus 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by x minus 2. Okay, now I need to distribute that x minus 2. On the left side, notice how x minus 2 and x minus 2 reduce, so I'm left with just 5x. Now, right here, if I distribute the x minus 2, I have 7 times x minus 2. And that last rational expression, the x minus 2 is reduced, and I'm left with just 10. Okay, so I've really simplified the equation here. Distribute my 7, and now I have 5x equals 7x minus 14 plus 10. And now we just solve. Subtract 7x. Negative 2x equals negative 4. Divide by negative 2, I get positive 2. Okay, let's do one more problem on the bottom. Number 11. This one's a little different because it's not really clear to see the least common multiple there. So what I need to do is I'm going to do one more step, and I'm going to factor that middle rational expression. So I'm going to leave this one, 6 over x minus 3 equals 8x squared over x plus 3 times x minus 3 minus 4x over x plus 3. So now it's clear to see what the least common multiple is. That least common multiple is the product of x plus 3 and x minus 3. So what I need to do is I need to multiply the entire equation by that. Okay, so I'm going to take that least common multiple and I'm going to multiply it here. And I'm going to distribute it around this whole equation here. So notice on the left side of that equation, the x minus 3 is reduced, so I'm left with 6 times x plus 3. In the middle equation, the entire denominator reduces, so I'm just left with 8x squared. And on the left equation, the x plus 3 is reduced, so I'm just left with 4x times the quantity x minus 3. So even in this case, it simplifies. Let's distribute. I get 6x plus 18 equals 8x squared. Distribute the negative 4x, so I get a negative 4x squared plus 12x. And notice how a quadratic is forming here. And let's simplify this equation. I'm going to move everything to the right side, so I have 0 over here. 8x squared, subtract 6x. Oh, is that an x squared also? Okay, so I made a mistake there. So we have 8x squared minus 4x squared, which gives us a 4x squared here. I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides, so I have a positive 6x here. And then subtract 18. And now let's look at factoring. Okay, a times c. We have to do 4 times negative 18. So negative 40 plus negative 32, so negative 72. And b is 6. So now we need two numbers that multiply to negative 72 and add to 6.